Hey everyone, it's Tox from critshappen.com. Thanks for watching and welcome back. This is our first critical review of 2013 and I'm really excited because it's a game called Takenoko, but more importantly it's from Antoine Bauza. Antoine is a very well-known board game and tabletop designer and actually designed one of my favorite games, Seven Wonders. He uses some very unique ideas in his designs and this game does not differ from that. This is, let's see the easiest way I can describe this. It is a Japanese gardening game, if that's a niche or a theme. The idea behind Takenoko, and Takenoko itself actually is Japanese for bamboo sprout or bamboo child, is that each player is going to utilize the gardener and the panda to grow different stalks or different shoots of bamboo based on the color, or eat different stalks and different shoots of bamboo to obtain or complete these objective cards. You're going to have cards that will challenge you in how you lay out plots of land. You're going to have cards that challenge you for what your panda can eat, and you're going to have cards that challenge around what the gardener can grow. Now the interesting thing to start off about this game is there is only one gardener and there is only one panda. So it is a community controlled game. It's a 2 to 4 player game that plays about 45 to 60 minutes. They recommend it for ages 13 and up, but in reality we've played this with Ninja Zach and he's only 7 and he has picked it up very quickly. It really is not a very complex game. It takes about 1 or 2 games to get the feel of the gameplay down, but once you do, you start to pick it up very easily. So while the box recommends 13 and up, I personally see no problem with playing it with much younger children. And plus, given the theme, the fact that it is a very brightly colored and very comic kind of looking game, it is something that young children and young people will be attracted to. And that said, don't let it fool you. There's a lot of people when we've posted pictures of this on our site when we've been playing games that have said, wow, that game looks really good, but I don't know if it plays well. Well, hopefully we're going to answer that question for you. Before we get in, we've laid out some of the components and we'll jump into gameplay in a second and show you that. There's something I would like to show you here. The box is ridiculous. It is so well done in terms of an insert. It has spaces for everything. All 3 colors of your bamboo. You have your irrigation channels, which are these little blue pieces of wood. You have a spot for your die, which actually fits right in there, which I think is also made out of bamboo. You have your upgrade tiles that fit here. You've got your card stack. Excuse me. You have your tiles for the gardens. You have your player tokens. And you also have spots that even fit the gardener and the panda perfectly. And that's just really cool. And as you can see, I mean, everything fits in there really snugly, which is kind of nice. They've done a really good job on that. I know it may sound small and minuscule to some people, but to me, having this many components, having this good a quality of components, and not having something like this would have been a big missed opportunity. But this is really well done. And the artwork on the box is very colorful. The front is very beautiful, almost like a piece of art, and the back shows a good couple of shots of the game. The rule book is really cute too. I'll probably use that word cute a lot, which is something you may not have heard in previous games. It's not like anyone says, hey, Netrunner's cute and Mage Wars is cute. Let's face it, this game is cute. It's got a panda in it. It's got a little front story on the game itself and a little bit of backstory as to why you're the gardener and why you are controlling him and the panda. But then it gets into a lot of different things around the components, about the gameplay, about examples, and it's very colorful. There's lots of pictures to go with the descriptions, which is a really big thing in my opinion. This is a very symbol-driven game. It is something that you really do not need to read other than the rule book. And then each player board has references to all the symbols and what they mean. So we'll get into that in a second, and we'll show you all the gameplay behind this. But that gives you a little bit about Takenoko, what it means and what it starts out as. And then let's go ahead and jump into the gameplay, and then we'll come back here and we'll give you our final thoughts. But for now, let's get all of our watering holes ready. Let's get all of our tiles and our bamboo shoots ready to grow, and make sure that we either control the panda to eat what we want or keep him away from what we need to grow. Let's jump into the garden with Takenoko. So here we see the beginning starting point for Takenoko. At the beginning of the game, each player receives one of their reference boards. They also receive 2 tokens that are going to match the token symbols on their boards. The board is very basic. It is a reference to each of the 6 sides of the die that you could roll, which we'll get into in a second. Then there is a reference for each of the actions that you can place your action markers on, and each turn you get to take 2 actions. There are some effects from the die roll that will change things, but naturally you're only allowed to take each action once. There's an area to hold on to the shoots that you have the panda eat when it's your turn. There is an area to have the irrigation channels that you can acquire each turn. You don't have to place them on the board immediately. We'll explain later on in a second about that. And there's an area to hold on to your upgrade tiles. And each upgrade tile allows 3 different actions to happen on an area. There are also tiles as they come out that naturally have the same upgrades. So for example, if you see this symbol, then any bamboo growing on this tile cannot be eaten by the panda. This symbol says that it is already irrigated. We'll get into that in a second. And then this symbol shows that the land is fertilized, and instead of growing 1 shoot of bamboo, it'll grow 2. So we'll get into that in a second. Now, in addition, each player is going to take 1 of each of the objective cards. The objective cards come down to being 3 different things. You have growing specific colors and sizes. So for example, the gardener one here we have shows that I need to have 4 shoots of bamboo tall on a land that has an irrigation symbol. It doesn't mean it has to be irrigated, it means it has to have that irrigation symbol. So before, when we were showing you the different lands, if I were to be able to grow on this 4 shoots, then I would be able to complete this objective. But my problem is I need them to be pink, and I can only grow green on here. So this is going to be a pretty challenging one to complete. But because of that, I'll get 6 points when I complete it. For the land objectives, this has to have 3 pink pieces of land connected together, and they have to all be irrigated. That's something that some first-time players tend to forget when they're playing. You don't just have to have 3 laid out, you actually have to have 3 laid out in this configuration that are all irrigated. And then finally, for the eating cards, or the chomping cards as we call them, I would have to have 2 different shoots of yellow eaten, and I would get 4 points. Now these are normally kept face down, hidden away from your opponents so that they don't know what your goals are or what your objectives are. But for the purpose of this video, we'll just go ahead and face them face up so that you can see how things work. And we'll put them over here out of the way. So the first things that you're going to start to do is you're going to want to build land out, because you're going to need land to grow your shoots of bamboo. And like I mentioned in the beginning, this isn't a case of I control the gardener and my opponent controls the panda. On our turn, we're allowed to take 6 different actions. The first one is drawing 3 tiles, choosing 1, and placing it onto the game board. There are some restrictions about that. We'll explain that in a second. The second one is taking an irrigation channel from the supply. And these are just these little blue boards, and you'll be placing them on the board to irrigate things as the board develops out. The third one is moving the gardener and growing a piece of bamboo on the plot of land that he stops on, and any adjacent same color irrigated land pieces as well. The gardener moves in a straight line only, so we'll get into that in a second and show you some examples as well. The fourth one is the panda. You can move the panda also in a straight line, and the panda will eat 1 piece of bamboo on the piece of land that he stops on. And the final one is taking a new objective card. And the symbol shows one of the gardening cards, but you can take any of the 3 cards when it's your turn to choose one of those. In addition, there is this Emperor card for 2 points. And what happens is depending on the number of players you have, will determine when someone takes the Emperor card. In a 2-player game, when the 9th objective is achieved, then that triggers the last round, and the person who achieved the 9th objective takes that card as a bonus 2 points. In a 3-player game, you need 8 objectives, and in a 4-player game, you need 7 objectives. So in a 2-player game, if I'm the first person to turn over my 9th objective card and complete it, then I'll get the Emperor card. That'll signify the beginning of the last round. Everyone else will get one more turn, but I'll get those bonus 2 points. Just because you're the person that triggers the last round and gets that Emperor card doesn't always guarantee you a win. In fact, in our games, all that does is guarantee it's close. Now, in addition, there are dice. We'll get into dice in a second, because you don't use the dice the very first time or the very first round of the game. So usually the very first rounds of the game are spent by using your action to go in and draw 3 tiles and choose from them which one you would want to place down. So in this case, I have a green that's fertilized, I have a regular green, and I have a pink that you don't eat the bamboo on. Now, one thing to know is once something has an upgrade on it, like this one has the protection that the panda can't eat the bamboo, I can't put another one on there. So while logic may tell me I want to get this pink out there to start growing my 4 shoots on the card that I have to complete, it's not going to allow me to put an irrigation system on here or an irrigation upgrade on here, so I'm not going to be able to complete it with that. But I do have my other card that told me I need to have 3 pinks out that need to be irrigated, and that is a good choice as well. So I would choose the pink. I could then put these 2 back in any order I want to, and I place it somewhere on the board. Now at the beginning of the game, it's very simple. It has to be placed on this island token, which is at the very center. Anything placed adjacent to the island is automatically considered irrigated and would get its first shoot of bamboo. Each additional shoot of bamboo is going to grow higher and higher by these additional pieces, and they just interlock into here. Each area on the board can have a maximum of 4 shoots of bamboo. So you're not going to have anything that's like, yay, 10 feet high and falling over. But it does get quite complex at times, so I would highly suggest to try and not knock the table as much as possible. But in this case, we would start off with our initial shoot of bamboo. It would be protected because the panda can't eat it. And then for my second example, I'm going to go ahead and my second action, take an irrigation shoot. Now I can place it immediately. You place it along the edges of things like this, and anything that it is adjacent to is going to be irrigated. The tip of it does not irrigate the piece out here. So if I had a piece over here, this would not be irrigated. It's only the ones that it's adjacent to. I would need to get a second irrigation channel out here. Now another thing to know is that as the game develops, when you have something that has an irrigation system out here already, it doesn't mean that I can just simply, for example, if this was my setup right here, the pink is irrigated because it is attached to the pond in the center. The green is irrigated because it has an irrigation symbol on it, but the yellow is not irrigated yet. If I take an irrigation channel and simply go like this, it is not irrigated on the yellow side because the symbol that's on the tile itself only counts for that tile and won't feed other irrigation systems. I would actually need to have an entire channel built from the center of the pond out to one touching edge of this yellow like this or like this to show that that's been irrigated. That's where it comes in as a very early game strategy to get as many of these irrigation channels as possible, not overloading on them, but getting enough to make sure that you can irrigate things that are away from the pond and be able to still achieve your land objective cards. Now in addition, you are not allowed to just keep building out. So if the next player chooses to take a piece of land, he can't put it out here. He actually has to put it either adjacent to the island or adjacent to 2 other pieces. So let's say the second player had gone and he drew this yellow and put it right there. When it's my turn, if I got this green piece, I couldn't choose to put it down here. I'd have to put it either adjacent to two pieces or adjacent to the pond. That's probably the trickiest that it gets in terms of rules and placement for Takenoko. Other than that, you're going to be building up and building out and putting more colored land out to both achieve your objectives from land placement, but also achieve your objectives from eating and growing. So how does that work? Well, let's say we're a little bit further along in the game, and let's say we have irrigation out to here and here. Once you're done with the first turn, or the first round, you're going to start to throw dice. So after the first round is complete and everyone's had a chance to play, the beginning of the next round, you're going to roll dice. And there's different symbols on the dice that mean different things. There is sun, which allows you to take a third unique action. There is rain, which allows you to grow one stalk of bamboo on any piece of land out there on the board. There is wind, which allows you to take the same action twice. There is lightning that allows you to just jump the panda anywhere you want and eat one piece of bamboo. That's very important because normally they only move in a straight line. We'll get into that in a second. There's clouds, which allow you to pick up one of the additional tiles, and those can be placed at that point or put into your reserve. If you place them, you simply put them on a piece that does not already have an upgrade on it, and then that would become that upgrade. So for the card that I had where I needed to get a pink with an irrigation symbol, if I rolled the clouds, I would want to get a irrigation symbol and put it on a pink like this and start growing on there. And then finally there is the question mark, which is a wild. You can choose any action to take from the remaining 5. That is a lot of randomness and a lot of fun because that's going to change the game as it goes along. Now let's say we're a little bit further along here in the game and we have these tiles out and we have both these pink and this yellow is irrigated because of both being attached to the pond in the center, but then this pink has an irrigation channel over here and it also has the irrigation symbol on it. If I want to take an action to move my gardener, I can move him directly as long as I want in a straight line. So if this is a gigantic game board with 7 tiles, I can move him in a straight line. But I cannot move him like this and like this because that's not a straight line. So it has to go in a straight line only. But let's say I moved him from the center and I moved him right there. Well, the first thing that's going to happen is this is going to get a shoot of bamboo on it. But then every additional area that's irrigated of the same color that is adjacent is going to get one as well. Now, if I had a pink over here that was irrigated, it would not get a shoot of bamboo because it's not adjacent to the piece of land that he stopped on. And then let's say for whatever reason for my objective cards, I needed to eat a shoot of bamboo. I could then put my token on my panda, move the panda again in a straight line only, and be able to come over here and eat that piece that I just grew. So a lot of the strategy inside of this comes from understanding the tiles that you have versus the objective cards in your hand and moving the gardener and the panda back and forth. There's a little bit of randomness because you're going to have the die roll affecting things that you do on turn-by-turn basis. There's going to be a lot of strategy because you're going to be having to build on specific plots of land both from color and from symbols. And there's going to be a lot of tile placement strategy. Now, once a tile's down, it's down. There's nothing in the game that moves tiles around or changes where they are. But what does change quite dramatically and quite rapidly, even in a 2-player game, is the height of the bamboo shoots all around the game. You'll be playing a game and you'll have bamboo shoots out all over the place at all different heights. And just because of die rolls or different things that can happen, you're going to have people completing multiple objectives in a turn. Especially, and this is one of the more fun things of the game, when you've laid out a strategy for all of your different cards that you have in your hand, and you end up achieving them because you get the right die roll and the right combination of things to come together and move the gardener, grow, achieve a victory point or achieve a victory objective, move the panda and be able to eat something. And it's just a lot of fun seeing all that come together. This may sound complicated, and it is at first when you first sit down because it's a little bit of a different game getting into the understanding of, hey, we're all working together to build this area, but we're all working individually to complete our objectives that are handed out to us. There's no limit to the number of objective cards you can have face down or in your hand, but again, depending on the amount of players in the game will determine how many objectives, once completed, will trigger the final round. And then after all that is done, every player's completed objectives that are face up get added up and scored. The Emperor, whoever got that, gets the bonus 2 points, and whoever has the most victory points at the end is considered the winner of the game. So it's very colorful, it's very fast-paced, there's a little bit of luck and a lot of strategy and a lot happening inside of the Garden of Takenoko. But what do we think overall? Let's take a second, we'll back up, and we'll give you our final thoughts. So that's Takenoko, but what do we think? Well, I'm very happy to say that once again, Antoine Boza does not disappoint. This has a very unique theme and very cutesy theme, but it is without a doubt a crit of a game. In fact, I have struggled very hard to find something to nitpick about this game. And other than the fact that it's almost too cute that it would push some people away from it, there's not much that I can find that's really wrong with this game. It is an absolute work of art. The artwork is beautiful, the little miniatures are adorable, and whether you're looking for a game to play with your wife or your girlfriend or your husband or boyfriend or your kids or any kind of family theme type game, man, this is it. I have yet to introduce this game to anyone where they just go, nah, and that's it. This is something that's very, very eye-catching. The artwork that's on the player boards, the artwork that's on the cards, the component quality, the bamboo shoots as they get placed together like little puzzle pieces, even the die and its lightweight and bamboo type feel all come together in a theme that is really, really beautiful. But gameplay-wise, it knocks it out of the park. It is extremely strategic and almost cutthroat in some cases in terms of how you are drawing these tiles and how you are going to place them down. And not only that, but knowing who's next and looking at the layout of the board after you get several games under your belt, you're going to start to try to anticipate what pieces or what configurations from these land objective cards that people are trying to get. So while you draw 3 tiles when you take that action, you get to put the remaining 2 back down in any order you want. That may not seem like a big deal, but it does become a psychological thing with people. It's really fun to be moving these little pieces around the board. Make sure that you're chomping the right pieces that you need to obtain for your objectives, but not only that, moving the pandas in directions that will force your opponents to have a harder time getting the colors they want. Because the board is different every time you play it, it really brings you into a strategic mode where you realize, okay, I need to eat a pink piece of bamboo. And there's a piece over here I could eat, and there's a piece over here I could eat. But if I eat this piece, then the player next to me has the access to either yellow or green. If I eat this piece, they're only going to have access to yellow or pink. And you again start to develop these strategic moves of, should I take this piece and leave them as an option to eat any piece they want? And even if you do block them and come over here to where you can't get to a green from here, because again they have to move in a straight line and they can't do this diagonal hex movement. If you do that, they still have the opportunity to roll the lightning bolt and move the panda to any piece on the board and go ahead and eat that piece of bamboo. So there's enough luck to make it a lot of fun, but not make it overly random and just getting destroyed by a bad beat. There's a lot of strategy between these 2 simple pieces and the layout of the tiles that's going to keep you coming back for more. This is one of those games that when you lose, you want to play right again. And that was one of the most exciting pieces to me, is that the first couple of games you start to get the gameplay and the feel down of when do I want to get irrigation channels and do I want to place them immediately or hold them back? When do I want to go digging for more cards? When do I want to eat versus grow? It takes maybe 2 or 3 games to really get a comfortable feel for that. But once you've got that down, there is a ton of strategic depth in this. And the other thing that I've enjoyed very much is that whether you're playing as 2-player or whether you're playing as 4-player, The game scales very, very well. In fact, I found myself in two-player games having more fun, which is a little odd for me. I normally have more fun with larger groups, and I like that social interaction. But this is a game that is very, very fun two players and can almost be very cutthroat, especially if you're playing against someone who understands it as well as you do, and you're strategically placing things and moving things correctly. In fact, one gameplay one night, my opponent said to me, "You know, for a really cute game, it's really quite devilish." And that was something that I felt summed it up really, really well. Component-wise, the game's amazing. The unique pieces of bamboo are just really, really cool and really, really fun. The flexibility and the construction of the tiles, the tile pieces are really, really strong and rigid. And the options of being able to replay and mix things up is great. The card quality is good. I'm not going to say it's perfect, but it is very, very good. As usual, I'm not a fan of these half-height cards, but it works for this game, especially when you need to have like 9 objectives. And just because you need 9 objectives, I didn't mention this before, doesn't mean that's all you're going to have. On my turn, if I have 8 objectives completed and I'm playing a game where we need to have 9, and I have 3 cards in my hand, I could still complete all 3 of those and end up with 12 objective cards. All that happens on the threshold is it means that the person who hits the threshold gets the Emperor card, continues finishing their turn, and then everyone else gets a turn as well. But again, what we found is just because you complete all those objectives doesn't mean you complete the high enough point objectives to win. We've had many games where the person who's hit that threshold has only had a lot of 3 and 4 point cards, whereas someone who didn't complete the threshold had like 6, 7, and 8 point cards, and they were able to win the game. So there is a lot of strategy built into this, and that makes it a lot of fun. Because these pieces are communal and people are moving them around, it also keeps you very engaged from turn to turn. When it's not your turn, it's not as simple as kick back, relax, and don't do anything. You're actually going to be very intently focused on where your opponents are moving the gardener and where they're moving the panda, and how they're placing tiles that they've chosen on their turn if they've chosen that action, so that you can continue to plan, okay, what am I going to do on my next turn to make sure I can complete my objectives. As usual, Antoine Boza does not disappoint. He is a very fun designer. He takes some things that seem very basic about growing bamboo and eating bamboo and turning it into something that is an absolute joy of a game to play. This is something we've enjoyed with nothing but adults. It's something we have enjoyed with nothing but family and kids and younger generations. It is something that I honestly could not think of a single person I wouldn't recommend this game to, and I'm very excited about that because as much as I enjoy Antoine's games, I am always concerned about the next one being a disappointment. This one has not been. It has been an absolute crit and an absolute joy. This is another one of our games that was provided to us by Lair, which is our friendly local game store. If you have a chance, would highly recommend to check them out as well at dlair.net. We'd like to thank them for providing a copy for us to play, develop an opinion, and bring to all of you. But in the meantime, Crits Happen gives Takenoko a full 4-shoot high crit. This has been a lot of fun. We hope you've enjoyed this game. If you have any questions or comments, let us know. Feel free to leave your comments here on the YouTube channel. You can find us online on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Google Plus by searching Crits Happen, and of course at our homepage at critshappen.com. Also, don't forget, you can go to our homepage at critshappen.com, look up the written review for Takenoko, and at the very bottom you can submit your rating for crit, hit, or miss as well. We love to hear from all the fans, and we really do appreciate your interaction. But until we see you next time, we hope that you enjoy your time growing bamboo, eating bamboo, and placing all of your tiles in the garden of Takenoko. Thanks so much for watching. Keep rolling those dice, and we hope they're all crits. Thank you again to Lair for providing us a copy of this game to review for you. Check them out online at dlair.net for all your comic and gaming needs.